This is Alex Magaña, director of several horror short films, including Smiling Woman, Outbreak, Do Not Open, Lost in the Woods.
Hi, I'm Aria Jackson, and I'm the writer-director of the award-winning horror short Phone Home, and you're listening to
The Graveyard Show.
Welcome to the Graveyard.
And welcome to another edition of the Graveyard Show podcast. I am your caretaker, and the graveyard is open. I am absolutely excited to be welcoming in two young independent filmmakers from the world of horror shorts. You heard them at the top of the program. Alex Magaña and Aria Jackson will be joining me in just a moment. They come from the world of horror shorts, and what's interesting is that you can say that short horror movies are a subgenre of the horror genre itself, but now I can make an argument that maybe horror shorts have a subgenre within the subgenre, because how short can a horror short be? I say that because Aria's movie is a 15-minute short, her film Phone Home, and Alex has a series of horror shorts that he's done, and they're like 2, I think maybe to 5 minutes long. So very interesting perspectives you're going to be getting on this program from both filmmakers as to their process and how they make their movies. So Aria's dad and I worked together back in the day. We spent some time in the work trenches together, and we have stayed connected online. So that's how I heard about Aria's success with her film Phone Home. And Alex reached out to the program saying that he's a young filmmaker and he was wondering if he can come on the program to promote his movies. And I said, of course, definitely. Although one of his movies, Smiling Woman, has well over 2 million views, so maybe he should be promoting me. I mean, it's amazing how successful that short is, which we will be discussing in just a moment. Speaking of getting in touch with the show, if you would like to get in touch with the program, there's only one way to do that, and that is through email. I see your eyes rolling out there. Yes, email. No social media for the program. It's gyspodcast@gmail.com. gyspodcast@gmail.com is the email address. Fire me off an email if you have, if you're a filmmaker, if you're an author, if you have anything to do with the horror community and you want to get a little promotion, or if you want to come on as a guest. Hey, let's give it a shot. In the meantime, I do want to thank somebody. I failed to do this on my last podcast, but I uploaded my show promo a few weeks ago for my channel on YouTube, Graveyard Show Podcast, and someone by the name of Adam Apple left a really nice comment on the YouTube site. Adam was apparently looking for some old interviews with Count Gore Duvall and came across my show where I interviewed Count Gore Duvall from back in 2009, 2010. And Adam's been following the show since. What's interesting is that a few days later, I was on iTunes and I was just checking on my podcast on there. And Adam also went on to iTunes, left a 5-star rating, and left a really nice comment about the show. So Adam, I definitely did not want to forget to thank you. That was really, really cool, really unexpected, and greatly appreciated. It's nice to have you joining me here inside the graveyard. Thrilled that you're enjoying the show. So thank you so much for those really awesome comments. All right, I'm not going to waste any time because I have 2 really good interviews for you, and that's more important than listening to me yammering on. So as you hear in the background, I have some graves being dug, and when that happens, it means that my guests have arrived. First, you'll be hearing from Alex Magaña. Then I'm going to be following that up with Aria Jackson. It's time to get to work. Alex Magaña is the writer-director of horror shorts, such as Smiling Woman, Outbreak, Do Not Open, and Lost in the Woods, just to name a few. You can catch all of these film shorts on his YouTube channel, ACM Official. And Alex is kind enough to join me inside the graveyard right now. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I mentioned at the top of my podcast that your short, Smiling Woman, has over 2 million views, and I was joking that you should be promoting me. It's going to be pretty cool to have that kind of success.
Yeah, it was definitely Took a while for it to get there, and it was a slow climb. Like a lot of sharing and promoting every day. But yeah, it's hit over 2 million. It's pretty awesome.
So let's talk about what got you interested in horror.
Well, I mean, I've been doing like working in film for a long time. I've done like a lot of music videos and other like comedy skits and other stuff. And then I think I've always like been attracted to horror, but I never really did anything horror genre. I've done like some dark comedy stuff. That's kind of like my sense of humor is dark comedy. But there was actually a horror contest last Halloween for an under 3-minute horror short, and that's what I made Smiling Woman for. And then after that came out, just kind of like promoting it and pushing it. I mean, I lost the contest, but it's like it's done so well amongst like the horror community. And then, I'm used to doing my other work, and it's like like with the horror community, there's like such a strong like support for content and like artists and stuff, and it's like cool to see posting in groups and people sharing it and like commenting on it and liking it, versus like a lot of the other stuff I've done like outside of the genre that's like kind of just falls on like deaf ears and it just doesn't really do much. And I guess like I like the horror because it's so like stylized, and like as a filmmaker really like you get like a big impact like with the camera angles and the camera work and like the storytelling. Like people really value the storytelling aspect versus like when I was doing music videos, it's more about the song and the musician, or like other stuff I've done, it's kind of like more about the talent. But like with horror, the talent matters, but it's also like the storytelling and the director, and so it's cool. And then also like the aspect of like some of the horror shorts I've done where it's just like kind of ridiculous, like the Do Not Open, which is about a box, and it's like to kind of make a box scary. It's cool to take these like things that nobody would really think of being afraid of and like trying to figure out a way to make it scary.
So would you say that you have any influences from the world of horror that have rubbed off on your work at all?
I'd say like most of it comes from so yes, and I'd say like a lot of the stuff from like the 80s and 90s, because that's like when I first got introduced to horror.
Sure.
So like in Smiling Woman, you kind of see like some. I feel like a couple of my shorts kind of have stuff from like Sam Raimi and like Evil Dead, and then like I guess just like creating this. I guess that one and Halloween. Big fan of those. Like I like Friday the 13th with the camping in the woods and just kind of like creating that atmosphere. And then obviously Friday the 13th is one of definitely the movie that scared me the most as a kid. So I think like a lot of that, and then I mean like the newer stuff too, because they're like more polished and stylized, like the like the new like Saw movies and like Insidious and all of them, and then they're like, so I guess it just I guess there's like a lot of horror and a lot of different styles, so it's kind of cool to just look at all of it and take bits and pieces that you like and kind of like let it inspire you.
Sure. So you went to Eastern Washington University, you studied film production. Was there anything through that experience that you took when you graduated and started working in actual movie making?
Well, I think the biggest thing I took from the school I went to is because you kind of ended up working with like a group of friends, like each person, and those would be the people you worked in like major your films with. And the group, like my group of friends that we all collaborated with, like slowly, like one by one, my other classmates kind of like ended up dropping out or like pursuing something else. So we'd kind of like pick up the slack and like learn what they did. So I had a friend that was like good with camera work, like a lot better than me, and like someone else that did like lighting for like stages and like concerts, and so he was like really good at lighting. And so like as they dropped out, just like learning all the different aspects, so I like became more rounded than I think I would have if I just like focused on like one aspect. So like for me, I know how to do like pretty much, you know, like everything from the producing, like casting, to like the writing, to the directing, and then the camera setup, the lighting, editing, special effects. So like know it all. And I think a lot of it's because we kind of like had to do it ourselves at the school I went to, because it was like smaller, and, you know, compared to like out here in a lot of the schools, like in LA, you're more like, you know, you just do cinematography, or you just write, you just direct.
Sure.
There you kind of had to wear all hats.
Well, and plus, I'm sure too, it makes you a better filmmaker, right? Because as a director, you have, and I've heard stories from people that have had novice directors walk on a set that's all they've done, and they don't know what a script supervisor does, and they don't know what a gaffer does, and they don't know, you know, what the DP does, and they don't know what the prop master does, and they just kind of like, well, and I think in your case, having done all those jobs, you not only do you understand what it is they do, it also helps you budget your time, right? As a filmmaker, going, okay, well, I want to have this shot in the woods. We're going to chase the woman down this trail. Okay, you know all the elements, having done those different jobs. So I'm sure too that's helped chop down your time, or helped you prep better going into your films than if you hadn't done that.
Yeah, definitely. It also helps with, like, since I do all the editing, I think it's like I was, you know, if I didn't edit, I know like all the shots to get, so that way I was like to provide the editor with everything they need to like make it flow. Because like you said, with novice directors, I've heard like stories too, you know, like people not getting enough coverage, so they need the editor on set to make sure they get like enough footage to work with and put something together in post.
Yeah. As they say, fix it in post, which doesn't always work.
Yeah.
It's like you got to get it while you're there. Otherwise, it could be bad. Now, you mentioned Smiling Woman was done for film competition. So what was the influence for the story?
So the influence for Smiling Woman was there's like a creepypasta story of the smiling man. And so I just kind of did like a spin on it, and then like added my own kind of twist to it. And I guess I just also like the idea of this because it's like real simple, mm-hmm. and like alone in the city. And since, you know, I'm in Los Angeles here, I feel like it's a story that you can execute well with, you know, like given the city background.
The film, as I mentioned, has a huge view rate. What would you say is the primary factor for its success? Because I mean, it's really killing it on YouTube.
For that one, I think like the main thing with the short, because I've done like several things that have gotten a lot of views. I think the main thing is people. The main thing with YouTube is you gotta, or I guess like anything in general, if you make something good, people are gonna, you know, like it and watch it, and you know, you just gotta keep pushing it because it's hard. So it's like Smiling Woman, I think I like just kept pushing it and sharing it, and eventually, you know, like enough people like start sharing it that it like kind of spirals. But also, I think with Smiling Woman, you know, it kind of like hooks you from the beginning, and it, you know, kind of keeps the tension building and like builds well. It's, you know, it's not like slow paced. It's just like grabs you and kind of takes you for like a little ride for like, you know, the 2.5 minutes.
Yeah, there's definitely a stylized element to it. I also like that it's that there are sort of quiet moments in it because it just kind of adds to what's happening. Regarding your short Outbreak, that looked like it was quite involved to shoot, because you have these sequences where the multiple viewpoints of people seeing the alien takeovers happening across different parts of the country or the city. And I was wondering, were you involved with shooting all of those individual cell phone videos, or did you just tell people, here's what I want, here's what I need you to do, go do it, and then email it to me?
Yeah, so the second one, so we actually did that short film, like right at the beginning of the quarantine. So like right in like the first couple weeks, we were like,
wow, perfect timing.
Trying to come up with something to film. and like everything was like social distancing, like stay at home. And it was like I feel like that was like the hardest. Quarantine was like the initial like month.
Yeah.
Was when everybody was like super staying away and like staying inside. And so we were like, how can we create something and then like also something relevant with like the time? And then we came up with the concept. So that was kind of like actually inspired by Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that short. And then so what I did was I kind of just like put up like sound actors from like all across the US. So there's actually actors from like Los Angeles area, like New York area, like Florida, and we got some people from like Atlanta area. So it's all over. And then we had them just like shoot a bunch of shorts or like little skits on their phones, and then send it to me, and then went through all this stuff and like kind of give them like an outline of like what we wanted, and like here's an example, and let them just add their own like creative spin on it.
Yeah.
And then I did all like like added the sound effects to kind of make it more a coherent piece. And then also like for the news anchors and like the podcaster, we found people that had like green screens and could shoot it themselves and send me the footage. Some of the footage was like really rough, so that's why like the newscasters had to like do some tricks to make it look like older and stuff. It just the quality definitely did not match up. So I think someone even sent me like one of the news anchors. They're just standing in front of like a tan sheet, so I had to like cut them out frame by frame. So that one was like it was a lot of work to get that one to where it's at. But I think it paid off. Oh, and it's funny, actually too, with the social distancing. Then do you remember the part where the main character looks out his window?
Yeah, and he sees
like the neighbors.
Yeah, they're all
actually his neighbors.
They're all 6 feet apart.
Yeah, they're all like 6 feet apart. So yeah.
You know what? Now I have a whole new perspective on that. Yes, I clearly remember that. I mean, yeah, that's great. Talk about being able to use what you've been given. I mean, that's awesome. Speaking of the sound effect that you mentioned before, how did you create that? Because I loved that sound that you made for the alien.
That one was actually. I think I like might have combined some sounds. So I usually there's a site called like freesound.org,
mm-hmm.
and they have like a lot of different sound effects that people make, and a lot of them are just like common rights, or I forgot what the name of it is, but
like royalty free. Yeah,
and then a lot of them let you like adjust them. So sometimes I add like a little filter to kind of like add it, or like make it sound like it's outdoors, or like echoing through like a wall or something, and then sometimes layer it up. But
sure.
I think I just went on there and just found like different like mechanical sounds and just like played around with stuff until I got something that sounded slightly like spacey, like organic, but still like computerish.
It's solid. I mean, it was something that caught my attention, but then again, I'm an audio geek as it is, but I thought it was so effective. And then once you start hearing it over and over and over again, it just, I was impressed. It was very well done. Not enough filmmakers, I think, do enough to feature audio. I think audio becomes secondary to the visual, which I get because it's a visual medium, but when you get the right audio cue or cues, it's amazing how much that adds to the texture of the movie. It becomes its own thing. I wanted to move on to a woman in white dress. And you chose to start the film basically mid-chase, which I thought was really interesting and got me involved immediately. What prompted that?
Well, with some of these, I guess with Outbreak, because it's like a slower start, and so that one I feel like it hasn't done as well. And then they say, like I've heard like multiple times, like on YouTube, you only have like 3 seconds, or like 3 to 7 seconds to like catch someone's attention.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of the times, if there's nothing really like in the beginning, I try to like start it when like something that's gonna hook you like from the beginning. Because it's like you're with a lot of these shorts, it's like I'm not a known name, so it's me trying to hook new people like as quick as I can, so they'll actually sit there and watch it. Like I don't have like that luxury of building it for, you know, a minute or two before anything happens. I gotta grab them and just kind of like, I guess just like grab people and like hold their attention as much long as I can to kind of like get them to watch this short and like give it a chance. And so that's kind of what I try to do with that one especially, and that one's like actually has like a really high view through rate. I think The Woman in White might be like the highest because it's kind of just like grabs you in like all action.
Yeah.
So
it's very smart. You're a very smart director to recognize that, especially in this day and age, because there is so much social media. There's so much content, whether it's, you know, professionally done, whether it's big movies, whether it's independents, whether it's amateurs. There's just content everywhere, which leads me to my next question. So having the internet certainly helps independent filmmakers such as yourself get an opportunity to get your work out there without having to go through the usual Hollywood channels. When did you decide to create your YouTube channel, and how did you plan it out?
Well, I mean, my YouTube channel's been around for a long time. It's probably like 10 or 11 years old. Okay. And it's mainly been to kind of, as like an outlet to showcase, because I've done, you know, like I said, like a lot of music videos. So it's mainly been like in the beginning as like a portfolio, in a sense, to just showcase like my work. So every time I do a music video, I upload it and would share it. And so like a lot of my work is like music videos. Like before the horror shorts, like a lot of it is music videos and like short promo clips that I've done for companies and stuff like that. And there is like a few skits here and there, but it's mainly just like, you know, the early stuff is like more music videos. And then later on, there's like more skits and also like some trailers, because I've done a few indie feature films. And so you'll see like the trailers for that. And then, you know, like recently I'm like more focusing on the horror shorts, because it's like a genre I really like working with. So I'm like more right now just targeting, you know, like trying to release once a week with the horror shorts, like on Wednesdays, trying to be consistent and, you know, hopefully building it amongst like a horror fan base. And it's kind of the goal right now is just kind of like transition to like more of my own work. And
sure. Having your movies on YouTube, have you been able to monetize it at all?
Well, the ones I've done actually went through distribution, so they do it more. I think like the YouTube rentals, so it's not like ad, you know, like the ad revenue, like the typical.
Sure. Yeah.
But I mean, because I have mine, and they go through like Amazon, YouTube, Google Play, iTunes, those kind of things.
Yeah, because I would think that you'd want to try to get something back on your investment, because I'm assuming that you're the one who's financing these to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, the goal with these shorts is to hopefully get them growing, and then use any like ad revenue to like help grow and like make cooler short films. Because it's like, it gets expensive, especially when you start doing like creatures and stuff like that, with like special effects makeup artists and like cooler effects and like locations. So I think that's the thing I'm hoping, is that the channel grows and I get like the fan base, so I can like make even better content, like for the people that, you know, stick with it and watch it. And that way, you know, I make like really cool stuff that people are excited to check out every week.
Was there ever any hesitation putting your work online when you first did this 10, 11 years ago, knowing how gentle people can be with their comments online? Or was it one of those where you're just like, I'm just going to put it up and whatever people think, they're going to think, and that's it?
Well, in the beginning, yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it. And then plus, I didn't really get that many views at the beginning. And then since I've done like music videos, like the comments are rarely about like the video. It's usually about the music or the, you know, so you can't really take it, you know, obviously it's not like directed at me, so I never took it personal.
Sure.
It's like more, I don't like this artist. If it's if it is negative, it's more I don't like the artist or the songs. I don't like it. But like a lot of it's their fans, so most of the comments are like positive and that. And I mean, I have done like my own stuff where it gets like trash sometimes, like some of the comedy stuff and like a lot of negative comments. And it does suck, when you read a bunch of people not liking your stuff, but
it's the life of the artist, Alex. It's the life of the artist.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to put your stuff out there. I mean, whether it's writing, whether it's video, whether it's a movie, any of that stuff. And I've always found it easier for people just to tear it down and just, be rude or mean about it. And it's like, well, you try to put something up there and then you tell me how easy it is. So for everybody that does that, my hat's off to them. I mean, you're doing these shorts, and even though they're, 2 minutes, 3 minutes in length, it's still a lot of work that goes into that. I don't think people understand that, especially those that have not made movies. You have, it seems like you churn these shorts out pretty quickly. How long would you say is the average time between the time you write it, you cast it, you shoot it, you post it? How fast are we talking about as far as the turnaround goes?
Well, with these ones, these new ones I've been releasing since like I think in July. So I actually shot a bunch. So I went out to like Big Bear and for like a month, and then I just shot shorts because I was trying to get away from everything and like find a place that was like more isolated.
Yeah.
So I could work, during this whole pandemic.
Yep.
So that way I could kind of find a place where we'd be isolated, out in the woods, away from people, like small cast and crew, and just work. So these ones, a lot, we just kind of shot them. I didn't really edit them until like now, but a lot of them have been, some of them it's like I'll write it and then message people that I think would like fit the role. Like, we'd film it like the next day or like 2 days after the script's done. So I'd like come up with the script and in like a day, and then like shoot it like a couple days later, and then usually it takes like a day or two to edit. And so they're pretty quick. They're a lot longer than you think since they're so short, but they do take like a few days.
Well, sure. Yeah. You're going through, depending on how many takes, if you got to color correct because you're editing it too. So you're color correcting it. If it needs it, you're matching it. Audio wise, you got to sound design. You got to, there's a whole lot. A 3-minute movie. How long does a 3-minute movie take to edit, would you say, just roughly?
Yeah, I guess it depends on how complex. Like Woman in White took a lot longer because there's the effects of like the black eyes that to go through, especially when she's like floating.
Yeah.
And crossing like the branches. Like that one took me like, I probably spent like a day just doing like all the black eyes to make them like line up the best I could, and then
yeah,
usually it's like a day to like a full day to like sync and like line up everything, and then I go through like a second day and kind of like finalize, like re-listen to the sound and make sure everything sounds leveled and like check the color correction and like do any like tightening up. If I do have time, like if I get it done early, like because I'm trying to do on the Wednesday schedule, I'll try to take a few days between when I do the first cut to finalizing, so that way I can like see it with like a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah, it's all comes into it. Especially again as the director, as the DP, as the editor, you're doing all this stuff, and then there is a such thing as fatigue, ear fatigue, eye fatigue, and it wears on you. I can't even imagine. So as far as so you're doing every week on your YouTube channel, ACM Official. How long do you think you're going to keep doing a new release every week? Is there a planned amount of time, or are you just going to keep doing it until you can't do it anymore? What are you thinking?
I guess I was just going to kind of keep doing it until I guess I couldn't come up with any more concepts. So like for a while, Or, I mean, I was also hoping to turn some of these into like feature films. So the nice thing with these shorts is it gives me like a test. I guess it kind of like tests the waters to see like which shorts people react to the most and like which ones people want to see like a bigger story developed from. And, you know, hopefully I can use these kind of like these shorts as like a proof of concept to turn it into like a feature and get like funding to make. Because I could already do, you know, I could do like an indie feature. I've done like a few, but I want to make sure when I do like the next movie, it's like something like something I haven't done yet. That's like way outside my comfort zone, so I can like really step up and like make something awesome that people really like. So.
Well, I have to say, I like your handling of paranormal. I know there seems to be a theme in a lot of your shorts, and it's really well done with the box, with the ghost that's in the sheet in the woods. It's really, I mean, you have a really good handling. You know what you want, and you do it very well. So. I wish you well with that. If anybody's trying to follow you on social media, are there any sites or Twitter or anything that you have that people can follow you on?
Yes, all my stuff is ACM official, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. It's all at ACM official.
You heard the man. ACM official are all the sites. Go check it out. Go support Alex. Alex Magaña is the writer-director of Smiling Woman, Outbreak, and a series of other films that we mentioned. Alex, thank you for joining me inside the graveyard. I look forward to having you back on down the road. Congratulations and good luck with everything.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
And now joining me is Aria Jackson, who is the writer-director of the horror short Phone Home. It's a story about a man who is grieving the unexpected loss of his girlfriend when suddenly he receives a chilling call. It's from her. The short film recently won 2 awards at this year's Hollywood Horrorfest for Best Supernatural Short and Best Original Story. And the film was nominated for Best Female Director, Best Horror Short, and Best Acting Duo at the Indie X Film Festival. And I'm really pleased to welcome Aria inside the graveyard. Aria, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. I mentioned at the top of my program that your dad and I go way back in the work trenches, and he's a very successful television director. So I'm sure he's really proud to see his daughter out there directing and taking the reins of directing a film project.
Yeah, he's very excited. I think he loves watching me work because he's been on set a few times, and he just knows the film world and the television world are so different. So he's very happy that we're in our own spaces, but we're still in the directing position.
Now, in 2017, you graduated from CSUN. You attended the Cinema and Television Arts program. So what got you interested in wanting to be a part of the entertainment industry?
I really think it is just from both my parents, because my dad is a director and my mom is a graphic designer and technical director, and that's how they met. They met at CBS Studios way back when. So it's always kind of been my thing growing up, is that I was always making short films from when I was like 10 years old. I was doing stuff with like Legos. So it's just always been a passion of mine. I've never thought about doing anything else.
Oh, that's cool. I love that story. That's great.
Yeah.
So did your dad give you any advice when you said to him that you wanted to become a director?
He gives me advice, but I don't know. I think I was always going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be a director, or I'm going to be in the entertainment industry. And my parents were just like, yep, that sounds good. You should do that. And
That's great.
All right.
That's awesome.
But he gives me advice, but he also respects that film and television are different.
Sure.
And also I'm a lot like him just naturally, so he's never really given me that much advice, just because I think I already kind of lead like how he leads. You've
studied how he works and how he prepares.
Yeah, because when I was growing up, like when I was like 16 or 17, I would go on sets with him and like watch him work. and how he deals with his crew and like how he connects with people.
Yep.
And I think I've kind of mimicked that without even realizing I'm kind of mimicking him.
That's really great, because I think that that's one of the things for young filmmakers when they make that transition from being a student or maybe an independent filmmaker who is lucky enough to get the professional directing job. And I've heard stories from other friends and colleagues that they come on set, they don't know what people do, what those jobs are, and that can be frustrating for a professional film and TV crew, because you want your director or your producer to know, or at least have some sort of knowledge, what those positions do. Now for you, that's great experience, because now you can walk onto a set and you know what people do and how the process goes, which will help you as a director prepare and then also understand when things don't always go right, because, well, as we know, that isn't always the case.
Yeah, things definitely go wrong, and you just got to stay calm about it and realize things are going to go wrong. I don't think I've ever been on a project where I'm just like, things are going to go great. I think every project I'm just like, what's about to happen? Something's about to happen. So I'm never like, this is going to be great. You just always have to be ready for something to not go according to plan. And then you just got to adapt really quickly.
Which is so important. Now, your bio mentioned that you also wrote and produced and directed 3 other independent shorts. Were those also horror shorts, or was that a different genre?
No, so Phone Home was my first go at anything serious, and I would say it's a psychological thriller, like horror. And that was my first time ever doing something like that. Everything I've ever done before has always been comedy. So this was really my time to be like, maybe I should try to do something that's not funny. And then my lead actor, Travis, who is amazing, his background is also mainly comedy. So offset, like off camera or like just during rehearsals, him and I would just be like the goofiest people, because he's a comedian and then all I've done is comedy and all he's really done is comedy. So we were just, I think we're hilarious together. But then when the cameras would start rolling, he'd just be like sobbing and crying. It'd be so dark. And then like right when I'd say cut, we'd be like, wow. And then just start like making jokes. But I think I like both. And it's funny because my favorite genres of film is like more slow burn, slow, like gritty films. But then all I've done in the past is just comedy.
That's so interesting, because obviously in the here and now right now, the biggest name that has come from horror, that is in horror, that came from comedy, obviously is Jordan Peele, which I think shocked a lot of us when Get Out came out, and we were like, wait a minute, what? Jordan Peele?
Yeah.
And so, but I don't think that that's accidental, because you always hear about how there's tragedy within comedy, right? And I think that the pairing is a lot more similar than I think a lot of us like to think about. I'm sure too, having the two of you lightening up the set in between takes probably helped as well, because it's a heavy film.
It is. He was just hilarious on set, but it was very heavy, and there would be moments where Travis would really have to get into character, and then you give him a couple minutes to like really like feel the scene and really get into it. And then right when we'd be done with the scene and I'd be cut, he'd be like, all right. And he'd just immediately snap out of it. And I was like, yeah, dude, you're great. And our communication, I think, after the first day, because we only shot for 5 days, I think, 5 or 6 days.
Okay.
After the first day, he pretty much had it nailed, like the whole character. Like he would ask me questions like, oh, well, how does he feel about this? And how does he feel like this? And I'm like, well, he feels like this. And he was like, cool, got it. And then there was really no direction after the first day. Like Travis really nailed it. And we did have conversations about how Eric feels and like how he reacts to Bree. And we kind of synced really well. And now I go to his comedy shows a lot because he's part of an improv group. And they used to. Now with COVID, they're not doing live shows anymore. And then after we wrapped, I went to some of his improv shows. And I was like cracking up. And then I saw him after the first show and I was like, dude, you're actually really funny. I was like, I can't believe I've had you crying for a whole week. I didn't know you were this funny. And he was just like, yeah, you got to cast me at a comedy next. And I was like, sure.
Well, now you have your next project.
Yeah. So I'll probably just do a comedy and maybe have him in it, even though, yeah, I have him in a lot of my stuff now.
Well, I was going to ask, so the story for Phone Home, how did you come up with this idea?
So it came up in like two parts over the course of probably a couple months. I think I was hanging out with some of my friends, and then they had they had the phone. So they owned this antique phone, which is the prop that we ended up using. And I was just like, we should make a movie. And they were like, yeah. And then I just looked over at this phone and I was like, well, as if it's like a horror movie about a phone. And they were just like, okay. And then like, that was the end of the conversation, but I still had that phone in my head. And then months later, I was just thinking of this really creepy shot, and that shot is what I used for the ending. So I had this really creepy scene in mind, and I was like, well, that's a really cool scene. And then I was like, well, what about that phone? And I was like, well, what about this scene? And then like, I think a month later, I was like, wait, I can put them together. And I just ended up writing it over the course of like a month. And then after I finished writing it, we went into production like a week later.
That is so interesting. So you work backwards. You basically came up with that, which I want to get into that final shot without giving anything away, because I don't want to ruin it for anybody who hasn't seen the film yet.
Yeah.
Because, well, I'll get to it when I get to it. That's really interesting. So when you sit and you decide you're going to write this script, you come up with the storyline. How did you determine how long you wanted the film to be? Because I just spoke with Alex Magaña, who's also an indie filmmaker. He makes horror shorts that are like 4 minutes, 5 minutes long. In this case with your film, it's 15 minutes. And I got to tell you, that 15 minutes flew by. I mean, it was I was like, wow, it was gone like it felt like 3 minutes. How did you determine how long you wanted that script to be?
I think when I was writing it, I funded it myself. So I was like, I don't know if I have money for a feature, because I don't have money for a feature to self-finance like that. At least at the time I didn't. I kind of just write, and then whenever it ends, it ends. So I think it ended probably at like 12 pages or 13 pages. And I was like, I guess this is it. This is just how I should finish it. So I never like stick to a plan. I just write, and then whatever it comes out to be, it comes out to be.
Sure. Now, I'm sure what helped too with filming it in 5 days was having the one location in the apartment. Mm-hmm. Was that a real apartment, or was that a set that you guys rented out?
No, that was just my parents' house, because at the time I was doing a production assistant job, which did not pay at all. So I didn't have, I did not have the money as a PA to be spending $5,000 on a location when I was already paying for equipment and food and, composer and all that.
Yep.
But so we just did it in what we had, which also helped me keep it short, as I wrote to what I knew I had, which is, writers say sometimes you should write to what you have, and then you shouldn't write to what you have. It depends on how bold your idea is.
Sure.
But I just wrote it to that one house, because I was like, this is all I can really do, and it worked. And also I was kind of imagining it to be a proof of concept. So if I could extend it to a feature length, I probably would. I think I was writing a feature version, but I kind of got sidetracked on different projects.
So when you decide you're going to make this film, was it something where you said, look, ultimately I want to be a professional director, so I'm going to use this as a reel, or was it, I want to get this to film festivals so I can start getting noticed now while still doing other projects?
I think for me personally, at the time, I was not satisfied with where I was just in any aspect, because I think I'm a very career and work focused person. So at the time in my life, I was just like, I haven't done anything creative in a long time. And I'm at this place in my life where I don't really like where I am. So I kind of did it at first just to do something. And then it kind of bloomed into this really cool project, and everybody liked being a part of it. And it was something that we all wanted to have on our reels. And the story meant a lot to me, because it was about kind of how you have to move on. I just wrote it as like a passion project. And now I didn't really consider festivals or like the reception of it at the time.
Sure. I think the film is very effective, and what I like about it as well is that it's one of those movies, and I always say this about like really good horror and sci-fi movies, is that the horror and the sci-fi elements are sort of secondary to the human aspect, and your film deals with grief and how to cope with the loss of a loved one. That could have worked as a drama, and you add the horror element into it, and it just takes it to a whole nother area and makes it that much more effective, I think. It's basically it's really a one-person film, but I mean, you have the couple. You have, as we talked about, Travis Lincoln Cox, and then Gabriella Toth plays his girlfriend. How did you end up doing the casting for that?
So that's fun. That's a funny story. So for Travis, I did backstage casting, because backstage is mainly more theater actors, because I've used backstage in the past, and most actors on that website are more theater based. And I was like, because I used to do theater, so when you're working with somebody in theater, or that's trained for like stage acting mainly, it's easy for them to give you a lot, and then you can control it and bringing it down, because some screen actors, they can't give you enough, and you have to be like, please, just more, and then they can't do it. But for theater actors, they overdo it, and you can bring it down. So that's why I wanted somebody that has that type of experience. So he did a self-tape, and then he sent it in, and I was like, wow. I think the self-tape was one of the scenes where he was just like crying on the phone. I think the first time recalled is what I wanted the self-tape to be. And he just did amazing. He was the best person that auditioned, because I had no person in mind. Like I didn't care if he was like white or black or anything, but Travis just had the best self-tape, and it stuck out immediately. And I showed it to some of my friends, and I was like, what do you think of this? And they were just like, he's good. And I was like, all right, we got him. And then I think I met him at a coffee shop after I had already booked him, just to make sure like we got along, that he wasn't some psychopath, which he turned out obviously not to be. So we met at a coffee shop after I had already booked him off the self-tape. And then for Gabby, and Gabby was telling this story last week because we were on a panel. Gabby was a super last minute recast, because the original actress that was going to play Bree, she went to Cannes. Is that how you pronounce it? Cannes? Okay.
Yeah, Cannes. Yeah, just depends on the day.
She a couple days before our final filming day, she messaged me, and she was just like, I'm going to France. And I was like, what?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was just like, okay. I was like, that's fine, because I can't hold that against her. I'm not going to be like, wow, she went to Cannes instead of the set. So I think 3 days before our final filming day, she dropped out. And then I was just like, oh my God. And then the makeup artist, Alethea Spencer, worked with Gabriella on another feature, Blood from Stone, which is like a zombie vampire movie. So Gabby was the lead in that. And then Alethea was like, Gabby can do it. And I was like, please, yes, Gabby, just come to set. So that was a couple days before our final filming day. So Gabby came in, and then we just knocked out all the scenes. So we had to reshoot some of the scenes, because we had already shot some scenes with the original actress. So our final day, we shot everything with Gabby. We redid all the voice lines with Gabby. And that was it. I was like, wow, dude, you're awesome. Thank you. And then that was her first day, like meeting everybody on set. So like, she's just new to like the whole crew, and she had to be like naked in a tub, and like we had to like cover her in blood. And she was such a trooper. She was really, and the whole time she was like, yeah, cool, awesome. And I was like, you're a lifesaver. She like saved my life.
What a great story. I mean, it just sucks, because as an independent filmmaker, you're already under the gun with budget and time as it is, and now to have to go back and reshoot some stuff. I'm sure it was a lot, but the crew handled it. I think everybody felt more bad for me. They were just like, yeah, we can reshoot, or like this one or two scenes. They were just like, the artist, she's like super stressed, but everybody on set was great about it. They were also very impressed that we pulled it off. I think that was probably the most stressful day. Well, and the beauty of it is that, with indie filmmaking is one of those things where everybody kind of bands together and goes and does it, because what the stakes are, and especially if it's a small crew, because it's just like, all right, we're going to do it, and whatever we have to do to make this work, we're going to do. And obviously, with Travis and Gabby, it worked, because not only is the film a solid film, but they were nominated at the IndieX Film Festival for acting duo. That must have been just great. to hear that.
Yeah. It was really fun. When I told them that, they were just like, cool. But they had great chemistry on set. So, and I was surprised because they had never met before. So that was their first time even meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But I really lucked out that the chemistry was really good with them.
And it shows. I mean, you definitely see it. Now, she was on set and did the off-camera lines for the phone as well, right?
So I'm trying to, this is something my audio guy and Nico, talked about, because I think he did production audio and he also edited it and did post-production sound, and he did an amazing job. And also he was really involved with me during the script writing process because he was an editor when I was a PA at our old job.
Okay.
So like sometimes after work, we'd say like after work and we'd like go over the script together. But from what I remember, we recorded her lines on the phone completely separately. So we just had Travis talking to himself, and then Gabby would be talking off camera, but it wasn't recorded. And then we just had her say it later.
Gotcha.
And I think the only reason we did it like that is because Gabby came late. It was a little confusing. Him and I did have some talks on how because at one point, him and I were thinking way too big. We were like, well, why if we give Travis an earpiece? And then we have the actress in another room of the house and they're talking over the earpiece. And we were like, that way doesn't make sense. We're making this way, like we were going to make it really complicated. We were like, why if we get a real phone? And then we were like, okay, we just got to just record the audio just separately. I don't know what we're doing.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, I've been there. The overcomplication is my middle name.
Yeah, so we were about to make it really hard. We were like, well, what if we get like a Bluetooth earpiece and then we have Gabby outside? And it's like, why are we doing
exactly? It's no like it's taken us a week to do this. All we had to do was have rough camera.
We were like, is it going to make it more authentic? And we were like, no, it's just going to make it harder. It's not something we should be doing.
It's like we don't have the time.
I think that was the most complicated part because him and I had never done it like phone conversations to that extent. Like if you do it like as a pickup or like one scene, but like a whole film based off of like phone conversations, that's what him and I were most nervous about, was would it feel natural? And I think it ended up feeling pretty good.
It really did. And speaking of looking authentic or feeling authentic, the blood in your movie is so good. Your effects artist did a fantastic job with that.
Yeah, Alethea is great. She does mainly like gore and horror, and I was lucky that I grabbed her right after she did Blood and Stone, which was a very violent movie. So she's like the queen of gore, and she does like beauty makeup too. So I just had one artist, so she did the hair and makeup and made Gabby look beautiful and made Travis look completely distraught, and then she also handled the gore at the end.
Well, please tell her what a fantastic job she did. I mean, really, because I was watching it and I'm looking and I'm like, this is some of the best blood I've seen in a movie in quite a long time. It looks so realistic. And again, I don't want to give anything away. There's certain other things that happen in the movie that it looks so good. But yeah, it was really, really well done. I want to get to the ending of the film. And again, for those who haven't seen it, I'm not going to give anything away. I want to talk more about the actual composition of it. So that last, it basically, the movie ends sort of on a static shot. And what I love is that you utilize both the visual and the audio to really make your point at the end. It was so effective. I actually kind of got a little chill towards the end of the movie watching it. It really reminded me of classic filmmaking where the director would let the camera tell the story without chopping it up and over editing and moving the cameras and everything else. I was wondering, because I saw that you've also dabbled in photography. Is that your photographer's frame of mind coming out when you visualize that final shot?
I think so. I think I've always been a visual person. Even before I really started getting into photography, I've always been just a visual person. So when I was explaining what I wanted at the end, like even with people that were reading the script, I'd make it clear. I'd be like, this shot, I was like, it doesn't cut away. It's just a long take and then super slow. And then people would be like, okay, like nobody really understood what I wanted. I'd be like, it's just a wide shot. and then it just doesn't cut away, and they're just like, I think somebody told me that wasn't scary. Somebody really was fighting me on that. They were like, no, and it needs to be like a close-up, like you need to do a couple different angles. And I was like, no. I was like, we're not cutting away. But I think it was just going to be the most visceral part of it and really scary. And I did want Phone Home to have no jump scares, except, I guess, I don't know if the title card counts as one. But yeah, I wanted that to be very slow and very intense. If anything, because Travis played the part at the end too with the.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah,
okay,
so that's also him.
Okay.
I'd always be like, we did a couple takes, and I'd be like, Travis, slower, and he'd be like, oh man, how slow does she want this? And I'd be like, slow, and I think we probably slowed it down too. But I wanted it to go on for a very long time and make everybody really uncomfortable. And I love the end.
I do too.
The whole project I like, but then I watch the whole ending and I'm just like, yes, because that's what I wanted. Like I only wrote Phone Home just for the ending. So because that's what I wanted. I was like, I want this really long shot. And I was like, and something's going to happen. So how do I make something before this?
Well, I'm going to say this. I went back and watched the ending after the movie ended. I'm like, I have to see this again. And I was watching the film on my computer wearing my headphones, and I was like, wow, this is really intense and effective. And you could just take that one scene and use that as your calling card. I think you'll get a ton of work out of it for that because it's so effective. I mean, it reminded me of watching like a James Wan film because he's one of those directors who utilizes sound like a lot of directors don't utilize sound, because he'll let it be loud or normal when it has to be, but he's also not afraid to let the scene be quiet. And watching your film, listening to the intensity of the music underneath with that visual, it really, I mean, it caps off a fantastic film, and it does, I think it stays with you afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, even with because I had an amazing composer. I had my sound editor. He recommended his friend, J.N. Scott, and he was great. And he watched it without without music, obviously. He watched the rough cut, and he kind of just did his own thing. Because when I'm working with other artists, because when you're an artist, I kind of just give them little notes and I let them do whatever they want. Mm-hmm. So he pretty much had the soundtrack of the film covered just from a couple notes, and then he watched it himself, and I kind of explained how I wanted the audience to feel, and he literally ran with that. And the soundtrack, I think, is also one of my favorite things about the film. It really just brought it all together. But towards the end, in his first draft of the soundtrack, there was still music playing throughout the ending, and then I think my one note was just like, I want the music to just stop when the phone hangs up. And I was like, I want Travis to be completely alone, and he was just like, okay. So he just made it stop when I asked him to, and the ending was very eerie.
Yes. As you could tell, I'm a fan of the ending.
Yeah, I am too.
And as well, it works, and it's just such a great payoff. So everybody out there who's going to go see this movie, trust me, you will not be disappointed. You will be rewatching this ending. So when the film's done, you go through post, you do the whole deal. At what point did you decide you were going to start entering it in the festivals? And what is that process like when you decide to put a movie into a festival?
I think just because I didn't want it to go to waste, and after seeing the final product, I was like, okay, yeah, it's pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan of my own work. I think that's the type of artist I am, is everything I've ever made, I look at it and I'm just like, ew. But I was just like, yeah, I should probably get my money's worth. So I knew some people that work at certain Halloween festivals, and I would send them the rough cut, and they were just like, this is really good. You should submit it to this and this and this. And then I ended up submitting to certain Halloween festivals, and it does very good in the horror circuit.
Well, yeah, it's because it's a good film.
Yeah, so
I mean, it is.
It's been doing pretty well, and then I think just because it's getting closer to October, I'll probably just make it public and let people watch it for spooky season, because that is coming up next month.
Yes, it is.
But I'm really happy with it. It grew from what I expected.
Now, for the Hollywood Horrorfest, congratulations on the success, by the way. You win
Thank
Best
you.
Supernatural Film. You win Best Original Story. So it's the big day. You're going to the Hollywood Horrorfest. Were you nervous? Were you excited? How was it for you that day?
So that only got announced last month in August. And since with COVID, there's no
of course.
physical ceremony, but the physical ceremony is happening next year, which is really cool. I like that they just didn't cancel it. So the physical ceremony is happening next year because it was supposed to be like a red carpet thing and like just a normal festival type situation.
That's right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that's happening whenever people can be in groups. So I have no idea, and they don't know either. But a lot of festivals had hard times this year. I think a festival called me yesterday because they wanted me to do some projects with them, and they were just trying to figure out how to make it safe. So I think that's just the struggle, but it's fine. I'm not going to be like, wow, I need to be on a red carpet. It's just like, it's cool that people watched it and they liked it and it got a little bit of recognition.
Now, with the IndieX Film Festival, was that also held during COVID or was that before?
That was before COVID, and I wasn't able to attend the ceremony because I think I had another project. So the award ceremony landed on a day I had a production, and I couldn't get out of the production because I can't just not do a shoot. So I wasn't able to attend that one too. But the Hollywood Horror Fest, I'm definitely excited to attend next year, and it's nice knowing that I already won, so I don't have to sit and be anxious in an audience. So I think it'll be very nice just going there and not being like, what's happening? But I was surprised. I didn't think it was gonna win anything. So when I got the email, I was like, what? I was like, okay, thank you. That's awesome.
That's fantastic. So you'll get your award when you go in person next year, which is nice.
Yeah, so that's very exciting. So I'll probably have the crew and the cast together for that, and we'll celebrate. I'm just looking forward to seeing people again and being able to hang out.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
This has just been a horrible year. You were nominated at the IndieX Film Festival for Best Female Director. I'm sure that felt really good. Yeah,
it felt great. I think there definitely need to be more voices of just women and people of color in general. So I just it was nice being nominated. I was like, cool, thank you.
Have you had a chance to talk to any other female directors? I'm curious what the thoughts are for your generation, because to me it feels like there's a lot more women that are going to be leading the way as the years tick by here. I'm curious if that's how young women are feeling right now about that.
I think I've definitely talked to some female directors. I don't know if I've gotten close to getting a mentorship. I think I was talking to somebody about a mentorship, but there's not enough. I think most female indie directors I know are definitely smaller scale, but still larger than me. I don't think I'm that established at all. But yeah, there's not enough. And I think women just have, and I talk to female VPs like on my site now, I try to have majority female crew. Like I try to have female producers and female cinematographers. And I think something that I've noticed with women in the industry in general, especially women in technical fields, and I've had this too, is that people really over-explain things that we already know, which is very annoying. It's very, I've been on set before when I was producing a project and I had a guy try to explain to me exposure, image exposure. And I was like, yeah, I know what exposure is. So I think women have to deal with that. And I've had female cinematographers being like, yeah, guys, tell me what aperture is and like what this is and how to use this. And we don't ask for that. So it's nice being able to work with people that can understand you and know what you go through.
So as far as making a short film, for anybody out there that's thinking about getting into the entertainment business, what advice would you give them if they decided that they want to try to make a horror short or a drama short or anything along those lines?
Don't feel limited by what you have. So don't feel like you need the most expensive camera and you don't need the best lighting and the best blah, blah, blah. So don't put it off by being insecure in what you have. So you can make a movie with your phone and like a couple friends. And that's something that people have always told me, and I always hear people say that, but it's true because I've met people and I've been that person where I'm just like, well, I can't because I don't have a $20,000 camera. And it's like, okay, well, it's going on YouTube or Instagram, so it doesn't need to be a $20,000 camera anyway. And just get people that have the same drive as you and want to work and learn with you is the best way to break in any field, is just surrounding yourself with people that have the same goals and ambitions as you and that respect your opinion and you can respect their opinion, and you guys can kind of come together on set and do something that you both can be proud of. And horror, especially horror and drama, and horror stuff is usually lower budget just because it's very like actiony and jump scare and gore and like that's kind of it. So just write an idea that you can pull off if you have no budget. So if you have no money, don't write a feature or don't write a short where it's set in, where's a really expensive place? Paris. And you live in LA. Yeah. So probably just write within your means. Don't go like crazy overboard the first time. Just practice and develop your skills as an artist, because the first thing you make will be bad. And then they'll just get better and better as you figure out your strengths and weaknesses and all that.
Now, earlier I was talking to Alex about one of his shorts that he did because he has his YouTube channel. And one of his horror shorts starts off basically mid-chase. And I asked him why he did it like that, because the movie's only like 2 minutes, 3 minutes long. And he was talking about how on YouTube trying to get people's attentions quickly so this way they see the film, they stay on it. And I'm wondering, as a filmmaker, because now we have more than just traditional network, cable, satellite. Now we have all different types of streaming services and, people watching movies on their watches and their phones. As a filmmaker, do you sit back and go, what am I making this for? Am I making this for somebody watching TV? I mean, does it affect you at all when you're making your project, or do you just say, I'm going to make it as it is, as I intended it to be, and then wherever it plays, it just plays, and it's just going to be what it is?
Yeah, I am aware that the attention span is getting shorter and shorter, and also I think most television and films, what was the average? There's like a cut every 5 seconds.
Yeah. I mean, I think they were saying that when I was a kid back in the 80s, with music videos. Now it's probably every like 2. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, so things are definitely quick, like fast paced, but it really depends on what the project is, because I have some commercial work coming up and just some brand stuff, and that obviously needs to be very quick because you have 15 seconds to get customers' attention, so it has to be quick. But if you're taking the time to do something that you feel passionate about, you can be flexible and do what you want and what you think is right for the film.
So you mentioned Phone Home may be available on streaming fairly soon. Would that be on YouTube? Where were you planning on launching that?
Probably just YouTube and Vimeo, but mainly YouTube, because why not? YouTube is still a thing.
Sure, yeah. Why not? Well, for those that want to follow you, is there any social media that you're on that people can follow your career or follow you? Yeah. Or plug away.
I think my Instagram is probably the most updated. I have a website that's mainly just for my photography. My Instagram is aria.mov. So aria.mov. That's my Instagram. And I'll probably, once Phone Home's out, I'll post it. And for every other project I have in the future, I'll probably start posting it.
Well, thank you for joining me here. She's Aria Jackson. She's the director, the award-winning director and writer of the horror short Phone Home. Aria, it was such a pleasure to have you here in the Graveyard. Please keep me posted as to how the film's doing, and I'll let the audience know on future podcasts. And the next time you do another horror film, I'd love to have you back inside the Graveyard.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
I have to say, I am so thrilled with both interviews. It was really, really fun to do. And it's always great to hear from young filmmakers who are making their way through the entertainment industry. They're both very talented, and I cannot stress enough to check out Alex's website. And when Aria uploads her film Phone Home, she's going to let me know, and I will promote it and let you know. Please check those out. If you're a fan of horror, you're going to enjoy both filmmakers, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of them down the road in the world of horror. You can find the Graveyard Show podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor, Podbean, Google Play, and wherever podcasts are found. And I'm also happy to announce that just recently, the Graveyard Show podcast was added to Amazon Prime Music. So if you have a subscription and you listen to your podcasts through Amazon Prime Music, well, now you can subscribe to the Graveyard Show podcast and listen to me, the caretaker, through Amazon Prime Music. So really happy about that as well. And of course, you can find the show on YouTube as well, the Graveyard Show podcast. All right, with that, I'm going to begin closing down the graveyard. The next time you and I will be meeting, it will be in October, our favorite month, as the Halloween season approaches. So in the meantime, please stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane. Wishing you, your family, and all of your friends the very best. And as you exit the graveyard, I would like to remind you to please lock the gate behind you. We wouldn't want anyone to get out. See you in October.